So the biggest news that came, the first release that happened today was a young woman by the name of Kenice Mobley. And if you're wondering who that is, she was a writer brought in by WWE, wrote for the Tonight Show, was brought in, had success on a national level as a writer, and was brought in to write on Monday Night Raw. Not like the head writer, not like the lead writer or anything like that, but was brought in to be part of the team in the writer's room for Monday Night Raw. She did a podcast this week where she could not correctly identify the WWE champion. Didn't know if it was Bobby Ashley or Bobby Lashley. Pretty much flat out admitted that she did not know much about professional wrestling. And my God, did the internet lose their damn minds like this is something new that WWE has done. It is not new. They do this on all levels across the board, from talent to writers to maybe not producers so much, but they bring in people, athletes, wrestlers especially, who have no background whatsoever, maybe have no knowledge in wrestling whatsoever, all the time, been doing it for decades, but
rarely though.
But she admits that she doesn't know anything about professional wrestling. Everybody loses their damn mind. And now today WWE releases her, but says it had nothing to do with fan backlash why they released her. Nothing. I have a major issue with this. Sid does not. And we have been arguing for, roughly 48 hours straight, Sid? Pretty much since this. I still love you. I still love you. I'll probably get heated here because this is something that's personal to me. Like this, I have a personal connection to this.
What is that personal connection? We need to know that.
Okay, the personal connection here is
because he's biased, Sid, already. I can tell.
So this woman.
Listen, you're about to get a mistrial here, Rick.
So she was brought in.
I'll throw it out. I will.
She was brought in. Kenice Mobley was brought in to be a writer, to help out.
Yes.
In the writer's room, to help out create characters, to help drive dialogue, things like that, to help out the people who know professional wrestling. People lost their damn minds because she didn't know professional wrestling. When I was hired in as a news anchor for 700 WLW 8 years ago, I did not know a damn thing about news. I went from covering training camp to covering an election, and I could not tell you the definition of the word incumbent. I was let go from my all sports job because they decided to flip the station. I was fired. I was out on my ass. And Jeff Henderson, the news director at the time at 700 WLW, saw something in me, even though I did not know a damn thing about news, and said, I can teach you news. You can write. You're a great broadcaster. I'm going to bring you in and I can teach you news. And he single-handedly saved my career. 8 years later, I am the morning co-anchor on the top-rated news station in the country. Because he saw something in me, was willing to be patient with me, was willing to teach me the business, and let me grow into that role. She was brought in to write. She can learn. She had every opportunity to learn the business, to learn professional wrestling. I did the same thing. When I was brought into SK, I didn't know nearly as much about the business as I thought I did. But I went out and I trained for a year with Jimmy Wang Yang. I learned everything that I could. I went out of my way to know this business better so I could better cover it. She had all that opportunity in the world because you can teach people professional wrestling. You can teach them who the champions are and how to. What you can't do is you can't teach somebody to be funny. You can't teach somebody to be creative or maybe you could tweak their writing a little bit. But that's what WWE needed help with, was writing creatively and writing dialogue that doesn't suck. Look at the dialogue that they had Bianca Belair and Seth Rollins and Bayley trotting out there tonight, and tell me they don't need help writing compelling dialogue.
I think that woman wrote that for she left.
She hadn't even started yet. She barely. As of June,
she did start.
She just started. But as of June 14th, she didn't start. She hadn't started. She does this podcast like a week later. Obviously, she had done some kind of research because she got close enough to Bobby Lashley. She knew he was in the hurt business. It was close enough. She had just literally started, and now she's out on her ass because the only thing she did wrong, in my opinion, was she admitted that she didn't know something. She admitted that she was honest, and that was her mistake, and she got crucified for it. Now she's out of the job.
Is that your case?
That's my case. Everybody brings something different to the table.
I'm damn near tempted to throw it right now. After that defense. Okay, Sid, you're up.
Okay.
Counselor, present your case.
I think it's a little bit more not. It's a pretty cut and dry case in my opinion, because
you can object, Mr. Rick.
As I'm just gonna state this, as an African American on a public platform like I am right now, I have a lot of sympathy for this young lady, and I agree with you. You know, if she's coming in for a writing job, she deserves the same opportunity as everybody else. And yes, WWE actually does have a lot of comedy writers, a lot of drama writers, a lot of Hollywood and movie writers. That's not the issue. The writing is not the issue. It's the overwriting. It's Bianca Belair in NXT when she's not given a script word by word to give. She was one of the better promos for all the ladies in NXT. But when you give her a script word by word on SmackDown, we get the dribble drabble that me and Dutch criticize each and every week. That's the issue. Secondly, she went on a podcast and publicly exposed the company for not asking for any type of knowledge of a writer. I'm sorry, as an African American, this is why you should learn a little bit about the company you work for and realize that WWE does not like to look bad like that. They don't like to have the public know what their hiring process is. So this is why she should have learned a little bit about the company that she worked for before she went on a podcast and publicly let it known that they don't ask me to do anything. She was very nonchalant, very passive about it. You know, it's one thing to get somebody's name wrong. Okay. There was 101 different ways for her to say the same thing. She could have said, I don't really know a lot about wrestling, but I'm very excited for the job that I have. The person that she was on the podcast with did not prompt her, did not ask her, who's the WWE champion on Monday Night Raw? No, she literally put it out there that she doesn't know the WWE champion's name. It wasn't a question. It was literally her talking. And when you're an African American and you're given that opportunity, you need to be on your P's and Q's. As an African American on this stage, I know I can't always say the things that Dutch Mantell, a wrestling legend, can say. I can't say the things that you, being on a radio show, being a wrestling journalist for the number of years that you have, I can't say the same things that you can say. I need to be on my P's and Q's to take advantage of the opportunity that I have on this platform. And she needed to do the same thing. We, as a fellow African American, I expect more from her. She needs to be smarter than what she did on that podcast. It's all about the issue with that podcast. I want her to have that opportunity. I want her to learn in the role that she is, but she made a dumb decision. And it doesn't matter if she's white, black, green, or gray. People were going to criticize the words that she said on that podcast. And so the fact that she's African American in the WWE, it just made it quicker for them to just fire them. And I think that everybody on both sides, people criticizing her, people that are critical of the fans' reaction, they need to put the heat on WWE and the hiring process and realize what the real issue here. The real issue is they have too many writers, not that they need good ones.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think they need some good ones as well. And Sid, I'm not going to argue with you at all about what she did was dumb. It was dumb as hell. Fake it until you make it. I'm not sitting here arguing that what she did was not idiotic.
It sounds like arguing to me. I don't know.
I'm not arguing. I think we're talking about two different things here, because that's why you're outraged. But I saw so many people just gravitating toward that headline and going, oh, there it is, right there. There it is, right there. That's why WWE sucks. It's because they hire people who don't know the business. They don't know who Bobby Lashley is. This is a writer on Raw, and she doesn't know who Bobby Lashley is. Didn't take time to realize how long she had been there, which wasn't long at all. Didn't even think outside of the box that maybe she could help the show out in some other way, because God knows, from the corporate boardroom all the way down to the referees, they have plenty of people in the damn building who know professional wrestling. Maybe she can help. Maybe she can look at something in another direction. It's that closed-mindedness. And I respect your argument, and I respect your opinion, because you were looking at it from a different lens. But there are so many people out there who just looked at it and went, WWE is so stupid for hiring somebody who doesn't know anything about professional wrestling when they have literally been doing this for decades in all positions. They brought in Michael Cole, who did not have an extensive wrestling background, and he worked his way all the way up. Granted, it took a long time, but he has worked
It took a while for him to get good.
It took a while, but he worked his way all the way up to being one of the top guys in the company. Yes, go ahead, Dutch.
Oh, can I speak now?
Yes, you can.
Well, her sin was admitting that she didn't know anything about the business. That's what her sin was, but she didn't know she was committing a sin.
Right.
But they have been doing this for a long time, and they may have done her a favor, because I've seen writers there who've been there for years. Nobody listens to them. The talent, they don't listen to these writers, because if they don't like it, they'll just go in there and see Vince, or they'll see somebody else, and then they go back to the writer. You need to change this, you need to change that. But see, even though she's a comedy writer and she may be an entertaining writer, she doesn't know the wrestling business. And to me, they say to be a critic, I used to hear this when they talked about Meltzer. They said he's never wrestled, and he'd always say, well, you don't have to be a wrestler to be a critic. And you don't. You know if it's good or if it's not. But she knows absolutely nothing. You wouldn't hire a basketball coach to coach a football team. You wouldn't hire an English teacher to teach science. She had no background, even in writing. But there's a way to write for wrestling and a way to write for something else. Exactly. And I don't think the guys would have listened to her. It may have saved her a lot of heartache and a lot of turmoil, because when those doors close in the back and those writers go out to all the talent, it's a war. It's a quiet war, but it's negotiating back and forth. Well, I don't think some guys pick it apart word by word. I don't think I'd say this and that and that, and then the writers, they can't defend what they've said, and they say, well, they'll go see Vince, but they don't want to go see Vince because that is admitting a weakness. So I don't know. I felt sorry for the girl, but I think they have too many writers of her magnitude that they don't treat the business correctly, and they don't know how to do it. I think they could do better with less writers.
I think they should trust their talent more, because the best promos we see are the ones that where the talent just, they get some bullet points of what they need to get out and they go out there and they be themselves. Yeah. That's absolutely the best stuff. Yes. But that doesn't mean that this girl couldn't have contributed in some way. Dutch, you brought up being a head football coach. No, if you don't know football or you don't know baseball, you're not going to be the manager. But they bring in mathematicians. They bring in people who know analytics, who can analyze stats and help out the ball club in other ways. There are different ways that you can help out. And that no one said she was going to be coming in here and being the head writer of Raw. But maybe she could have helped out. Maybe she could figure out how to write dialogue for Rhea Ripley that isn't 4 sentences long and they all suck. There's other ways that you can help out and not be able to pass a history test when it comes to wrestling knowledge. I do have a question for you, Dutch. How much you would probably know this? Did Chris Kresge have a whole lot of wrestling knowledge before he came in as the head writer in the late 90s?
I don't even know who he is.
He was the lead writer. He took over for Vince Russo. He was the lead writer from 98 to 2002 on Monday Night Raw. A very important time in WWE. He was with MTV for 15 years.
Yep.
Before he came over and took over on Monday Night Raw.
Yep. So the question is what?
What did he know about wrestling before he came in and took over as the lead writer on Monday Night Raw? What did he know? Did he have any extensive wrestling background? He might have been a fan, but did he have any experience in wrestling? I don't think so.
Yeah, but
being a fan is different.
But look who he had around him, Rick. He had Stone Cold, he had The Rock, and he had Mankind, and he had Undertaker, and he had Bruce Pritchard, and he had Jericho, and he had all those guys, and he had Flair. He had all these great talkers on their own. So when he brought a script back for them, they would look at it and they would change it to meet their needs or to make it fit them. But this is what this girl and none of the writers have. They don't really have these guys who really, I don't think a lot of these guys don't even know their own character. I mean, I think Sami Zayn knows his,
Yep.
and KO knows his.
Yep.
The top guys know their character. But you look at Edge coming out there tonight, after all the time he spent getting the Edge character over, people, well, I know I was excited when I saw him when he came down, because you know what the guy is. And he didn't have a writer getting him over. A writer probably wrote a lot of his stuff. But I think this girl, I hated it happened to her. And I think she would have maybe not had a good experience if just left alone. But her sin was admitting that she got hired without any prior knowledge of the wrestling business. And some of these wrestling fans, they take that as an insult.
Oh, the gatekeeping was hot and heavy, man. Oh my God. Stay away from my wrestling, man. Don't touch it. This is the worst thing I've ever seen, somebody said.
No.
Maybe or may not. They may or may not work here. Worst thing I've ever seen, they said. And I just had to laugh. I'm like, they've done this stuff before. They've done this stuff before. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I don't see this as a big deal, because I can look at somebody and go, they can help out in other ways, and you can teach wrestling.
Well, let me say this: that Bianca Belair's interview tonight, I don't know who wrote it, but I think this, what's her name, Mobely lady, I think she couldn't have done any worse.
No,
because the interview was just horrible.
Oh yeah, no, all the promo exchanges, like the deliveries were good. They did what they could with them, and that opening segment, man, it was just, it was cringe. It was some of the worst stuff. Some of the worst stuff. I'm just like, please, dear God, just get to the dang match.
But the good thing about it is we've seen this before, and it'll last a while, and it'll last till you see something you like. And that's what WWE is doing now. They're going through their bag of tricks to see what they can come up with and engaging the audience. It's going to be a different story when they go live in 3 weeks, because now they'll have real fans, and they'll put that ear and they'll start listening to them. And you'll see a lot of big changes coming off that first week.
Yeah, because I would think, and Dutch, obviously you haven't worked through an era like this where literally your only gauge is social media. But we know how toxic social media is, where everybody hates everything. This whole year, these last 18 months have had to be almost impossible for the company to really properly gauge who is over, who's doing well, and what the fans truly do like.
Yeah, they're guessing, because they don't know. They truly don't know. Now they're still selling merchandise, but I don't know how much they can tell from that. What they tell from that is going to the live events and seeing what's selling. And sometimes if a guy's selling a lot of stuff, or a girl is selling a lot of stuff, they said, okay, there's something there. Then they get behind them because of just the amount of merchandise and the money they're bringing in.